You're watching Eagle News International America Edition. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Before the break in our story, we learned that Jennifer's father, Pepito Hipolito, was rushed to the ER with an oxygen level of 58%. Unfortunately for him, it seemed like things were getting worse.
Presumed positive for COVID-19 by their own doctor, Jeff and Jennifer were also prescribed antibiotics, or the Z-Pack. Then after just one day in the hospital, Jennifer's father was placed on a ventilator.
We were told that 86% of people his age died, even without a ventilator. But if we didn't give him one, he would die also. And while this was all happening, my mother was falling apart. Physically, she had recovered, but emotionally she was drained, she was in despair, and I worried that she would relapse. I was counting the days when I would be fever-free. It was said at that time you had to be fever-free for 3 days to be out of the woods, but Jeff and I we just couldn't hit that mark. We'd be fever-free for a day or two, but then by evening our temperatures would spike again. You know, at that time, prayers were pretty much our only saving grace. Having different ministers call and send us messages meant so much. So many people actually reached out to us, friends that we hadn't spoken to in so long, family checking in and sending food because we didn't and couldn't even leave the house. We had quarantined ourselves because now we knew we were COVID positive.
After a week in a coma, doctors informed Jennifer they would start trying to wean her father off the ventilators. The family was terrified, but understood the importance of this next step. About the same time, Jeff's mother also started feeling sick as well.
Jeff's mom had a fever for a few days before she decided to drive herself to the hospital because it was becoming difficult for her to breathe. Jeff's mom was a cancer survivor. She had battled thyroid cancer twice, but this made her predisposed to many complications. So they ran tests on her, monitored her oxygen, and then made the decision that she wasn't sick enough to be admitted. So she was sent home. When my dad was weaned off the ventilator after 13 days, I felt like I could finally breathe again. He was still very confused, and that worried me, but at least he was still alive. While all of this was happening, though, Jeff's mom had been hospitalized. She battled severe heartburn and diarrhea for days. The nurses were so busy that they could barely care for her and was left unattended and uncomfortable. She was admitted on Sunday, and on Wednesday we were told that she was stable. She had an oxygen mask to assist her breathing, but otherwise was fine. It was difficult for her to speak because of the mask and because of the fatigue and soreness in her throat, so we would text her when we could. So when my father was taken off the ventilator on Wednesday, we spoke to him on Thursday. My mother-in-law passed away on Friday, and we were left shocked, stunned,
devastated. How had this happened? It was clear that COVID-19 was vicious and would attack at every opportunity, every weakness, and without mercy. The family was not able to see their beloved Ninita Pollington again, and there was no viewing.
It was a closed casket. We were told that we wouldn't even be able to leave our car. But on the day of the burial, they allowed only 10 people to be present, 6 feet apart with masks on. And we weren't able to go close to the casket or put flowers because we were told we had to stay 20 feet away. You know, it was surreal. We had a WebEx viewing available for friends and family who wanted to share in the moment but weren't able to because of the restrictions. There's definitely a hole in our hearts. Jeff's mom would give us food, send us dinner, buy the girls clothes. Jeff just said the other night that he misses her cooking the most and the comfort of a home-cooked meal.
She was always easiest to talk to, and I'm definitely gonna miss that. And you know, cooking like pancakes next to her, eating out with her, and just all of her kind words that she would always tell me, and she knew exactly what to say and when.
Throughout the years of knowing Ninita Pollington, we saw how genuine she is and faithful she is, not only to her family and friends, but most of all to her religion.
She would always welcome us with a smile, and she would often, ask me, "How are you?" and genuinely ask how I am, how I'm doing.
She is a very open and loving person with a gentle spirit.
She always told me to stay strong and to aim for big things. She just had a drive for everything, and she was so confident, and she was able to do anything that she could put her mind to.
We know that they will overcome the tragedy that happened in their lives in the passing of Ninita Polintan, because they have that strong spirit just like their mother. And we know and believe that they'll have a bright future because they support each other as a couple and as a family.
Evidence of that can already be seen in what's developing into the Polintan new normal.
Now, my father has a nurse and a physical therapist coming to the house a few times a week. He's still unable to do some things on his own, so I've had to change my schedule to be free in case he needs me or if my mom needs help. I have a few staff members at Kumon who are now taking care of the online sessions. We have lost a lot of our students, and I have a lot of concerns about the future of our business if this continues. But at this time, all I can focus on is being there for my family. My daughters are also doing school online, but they also have to make time to spend with my dad, their papa. We take turns keeping him company so he won't get bored.
While still bruised and battered from their war against COVID-19, it appears the worst battles may be behind them.
I'm actually not sure that our worst is over. Our family is still grieving, and there are moments of such sadness. But these moments are coupled with hope because my father is home and now recovering. He's getting stronger every day. There will definitely be scars from this experience, and I don't feel confident that I'm safe when we're out. I heard that we can still be infected again, even if we possess antibodies, that we're not immune. But if we do get sick again, it perhaps won't be as bad as the first time. However, there are so many unknowns about COVID, so I'm not really sure if this is accurate. Jeff and I have been going out to get some food and to do our chores and errands and to work at the center, but we always wear a mask and make sure to wash our hands. So while we're free to go out, I don't feel 100% comfortable doing so. We'll have to open our Kumon Center also when the government allows. While we have to open for financial reasons, I'm still hesitant to put myself, my family, my staff, and students at risk of exposure. So I hope there will be a resolution soon, but at this point, I don't even know if that's possible.
No one can really say how long the war against COVID-19 will last, or how many more attacks this family will have to endure. But it is clear that together, they will overcome fear and push forward with the strength and fortitude passed down to them by their families to carve out a life that embraces new lessons learned.
Eventually, life will have to go back to normal, quote unquote normal. Our kids will leave us to go to school. We'll have to leave the house and be exposed again. We have to take every precaution to keep ourselves safe. But the most important lesson is to cherish and treasure every moment with the ones we love. There's no time to waste on if only or I should have. Tell the ones you love that you love them. Let them know that you love them in everything that you do.
After all what I have experienced in the past, life is too short.
Never take for granted your loved ones.
Always be ready. You don't know when will your time be.
That's why I would like him to come back so that I can show him how much I love him and I miss him, which I took it for granted during that time.
If you happen past the Polintan Kumon Center, you will find a new look. Jennifer had her mother-in-law's favorite Bible verse painted onto their storefront window. A loving tribute to her, their fallen hero, whose love was always freely given, achievements inspiring to all, and whose spirit and faith will never be forgotten. Lisa Josena, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
And joining us tonight is Ms. Jennifer Polintan. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Jen. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Anna. It was a pleasure to share. I mean, it's a message that I wanted the world to know that, despite all the grief and hardship, there's always hope, and to just stay strong and faithful.
Right. So a lot to learn, for our viewers from this story. to be courageous, like you said. Now, I saw your beautiful daughters. Can you tell us a little bit about them and, how are they doing these days?
Sure. My eldest is Jordan. She's 14, and JC is 13. So they're 15 months apart. They're both enjoying being home, not at school. And they're actually asking me if they can just do homeschool next year, but I don't think that that's a possibility. I definitely want them to go back. But, if anything, I've just seen through this experience just how resilient they are. Like, they've actually surprised me with how strong they are. And how mature they are. I don't know if it's a great thing that they've experienced all this in their lives right now, but it definitely has helped them to become mature and stronger, I think.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that.
House.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They're young teenagers, but definitely not typical ones from what I saw. They seem to be wiser beyond their years. Why do you think that is?
They've gone through so many experiences, and a couple of years ago, my mother actually got sick, and it was, something very surprising that was unexpected. And again, my daughters rose to the occasion, and they were the ones who actually called for help. So based on that, and then just being with the family, and now this, it shaped them in so many ways. And I'm so thankful that we have them, that they're strong, and that they're so responsible also, that even when they see our family grieving and suffering and that my father needs help, they don't hesitate to offer them themselves. They're not just the normal teenage girls just caught up in their own lives, but
right.
they sacrifice for the family, and I'm so thankful for that.
Well, I'm sure you and Jeff have a lot to do with that too. And then, of course, having their grandparents as influence also, I'm sure that has a lot of positive influence on them. I think it was Jordan who spoke really, well of her grandmother, Jeff's mom. Was that her?
Yes, that was her.
Yeah.
They're actually very, very close.
I could tell.
She told me that her Lola was her confidant, even things that I didn't even know that she had shared with her afterwards, that she told me later. Actually, for Jordan's past birthday, her Lola gave her a little box, a keepsake box with Bible verses, so that whenever she was upset or she was down or she was scared, for her to take out a Bible verse that she herself would cut out and just to read. And so she's been reading that every night, and she's slept with the box. And I told her to add verses to it too, as when she needs it. So I know that she's been taking down any verse that she finds inspirational and putting it in the box.
Wow, that is really inspiring. Did she have anything to do with picking the verse that's now on your Kumon store?
That was definitely my mother-in-law's favorite verse. So, she spoke about that all the time, and those are the words that she wanted to live by and wanted to teach us. So, we knew that for sure. That didn't even need to be in the box, because that was just something we memorized and knew already.
That's really powerful. Now, I wanted to ask, Jen, when Jeff's mom passed away, and your father is recovering, I mean, how are you able to comfort him? Can you talk about that?
Sure. It's it's very difficult, and it's challenging. And when my father came home, I was actually very concerned for our relationship, that there might be some resentment, which would only be natural, of course. But Jeff is very understanding. He's very kind, and he actually really cares for my family and my father. So he's also very happy to see his progress and his recovery too. But it's bittersweet, because at the same time he sees progress, but also faces loss. And at this time it's just so difficult to grieve, because there's so much shock. We're like living in a bubble at home. You don't get to go out and go to people and grieve properly the way it would normally be. So it's almost as if we're living in a bubble of shock. And so it's just hard, each of these experiences, to see my father recover. It's almost, it's confusing. And even my own daughters feel confused about why one grandparent came home and not the other.
Well, I see that faith, really play a key role in your family, from the grandparents down to your children. And this must have, helped a lot in carrying you through. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Sure. like I just said, there's just this confusion why one and not the other. But it's faith that we believe that God has a plan and there's always a reason for everything, and that's what we're holding on to. That God always knows what's best for each one of us, and my mother-in-law was very faithful, so that's just something that she's taught my children, and she's inspired us as well to live on with her faith as well. So even though there is sadness and confusion, we're just holding on to the hope that we're going to see her again, and God always knows what's best for our family, what's best for each one of us. So it's not, we're not lost. We know that there's always hope.
Well, that's good. And I hope that it gives hopes, to the ones who are watching. Now, there was a special doctor who did a little bit more than the others, I heard. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. At this time, we were hearing that doctors were so busy, nurses were so busy, but there was one doctor who took the time to reach out to us via FaceTime. So before my father came off the ventilator, they tried 5 times and he failed. But this one doctor, the day before they were going to try again, he called us and said, just talk to your dad. He might not respond, but he might hear you. You never know. And so when we were speaking to him, they were saying to us like, oh, he's moving his fingers. He's moving his fingers. So, the next day the doctor did it again. He called us via FaceTime. But this time, now my dad was actually off the ventilator. And we were able to see him. He spoke to us, and my dad was crying when he heard our voices, and it was quite a touching moment. And we're so thankful that he took the time to do that for us. I mean, we knew how busy he was with all the other patients, but there are some people there who just go above and beyond, and we're so thankful for that. It's not just a job, but they really do care. He didn't have to do that for us, but we're so thankful that he really took the time to do that. So, to all the frontliners and the doctors who go above and beyond, thank you.
Exactly. Those are the stories that that we sometimes don't hear, right? Those individual people that, like you said, go out of their way to help you. And I'm sure that your dad, that really meant a lot to your dad, that you were able to. He took the time. That doctor took the time to have you speak to him, even even if you weren't able to be there. So. If there's anything that you can consider as blessings or even gifts from having gone through this experience, what would you say? What would that be?
I would say, like I said, my greatest gifts and blessings are my children. And while this experience for them has been difficult, I know that this is going to be a lesson for them to be stronger in their faith, just stronger and more mature, so that if they can handle this, I'm almost confident they can handle anything else that might be thrown to them. So I'm thankful for that I've experienced them watch that. But all the other gifts are just these precious memories that we have, these moments that it's just taught me now to really cherish all these little moments in life that we just take for granted. I was saying the other day, I heard my parents bickering and arguing. And before I'd be like, oh my goodness, what are they doing? But now I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, things are getting back to normal. And, whereas before I used to get so frustrated with it, now I just want to be more patient. I want to take this time now and to change my life and be understanding and patient and really not to take anything for granted. So I'm thankful that this experience has just taught me that valuable lesson to just cherish everyone in every moment.
Yeah, that's a valuable lesson. Now, the last time we spoke to you, you mentioned that one of the things you look forward to after the pandemic is to celebrate missed birthdays with families and friends. Whose birthday is coming up?
While we were in quarantine, it was JC's birthday. My brother-in-law's birthday. Actually, my birthday was last week. My husband's birthday is in a couple weeks. So we're just planning just a grand celebration for this whole thing birthday celebration when we can finally be together as a family.
Or a lot of birthdays then. Did you have a virtual birthday parties like everyone else is having?
No, not for my birthday. Yeah, we're just going to wait. Just wait till we can eat the cake together.
Exactly, it's better. Now, before I let you go, I'm just curious because I did catch that it looked like TikTok where Jordan and JC were dancing. Who did they get their moves from, their dance moves from? Is it you or Jeff?
Not a question. That should be just a given that it's me.
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer, for for being with us, and for being courageous. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but your story truly is inspiring, and we hope that our viewers, are given hope by watching it. I mean, because what you've experienced, like you said, I can't think of anything worse, and here you are, going on, moving forward. So much love to you and your family.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Now, a few reminders before we end today. Wash your hands often with soap and water. Cover your mouth and nose if sneezing or coughing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Avoid contact with sick people. If you're sick, stay home and call your healthcare provider. Practice social distancing, keeping distance between yourself and others, and avoid crowds. Wear a protective face covering when out in public. Let's continue to thank our frontline and essential workers with a round of applause. We appreciate you. That is today's ABC international coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Kui, and we live in interesting times.